Live. That's
Oh,
us.
we're live. Okay.
Oh, there you are.
Folks, a very good evening, good morning, good afternoon. I always get that intro wrong because I don't know where you're watching from or who's watching or whatever time zone you're in. Good. Happy. How are you? How's it going? Now, this is your weekly Mauls, Balls and All. Hold on. Something's after just popping up there. Oh, it's a YouTube thing. Yeah, there we go. Sorry. Oh, here's Dara. Jesus Christ, would you look interesting? Dara Weston, how are you? We're waiting for you.
That's just a picture.
Sorry, I didn't expect you to start on time.
Well, thank you very much, Dara. Thanks for that vote of confidence. Folks, this is, hold on, I was midway through my intro, Dara. 1 sec now.
It's gone on mute.
This is your, Dara, you on mute for fuck's sake. See, Sabina, this is what I'm talking about. Dara, you on mute? Dara.
No, he's just playing with you now, P.
Oh, for Christ's sake, he's doing the Simon Zebo on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sorry, folks, this is your weekly edition of Mauls, Balls and All, brought to you by Irish Rugby Banter and streamed from the Ruck This page into the group because of Facebook rules and all this. Joining me this evening is the usual Mike Reedy and Peter Martin. How are you, gentlemen? Dara Weston is there if he's turned on his microphone. Dara Weston, have you got your microphone on? Oh, for fuck's sake. Right.
I have
Dara,
my microphone on.
Oh, your microphone's on. Very good. Okay. And joining us, our guest this week is Sabina Moylan, who is ex-operations. Now, Sabina, correct me if I make a mistake here.
Ex-operations.
And you will make a mistake.
I will make a mistake. Ex-operations in Connacht Rugby.
That's correct.
A rugby referee.
Yeah, for Munster.
For Munster, yes. A highlight of your career, because you told me this, was running the lines in Twickenham for a game.
Yes, that was it back in 2013, I think that was now. God.
And what was that game, Sabina?
It was to raise funds for the Injured Players Foundation. So like, what do we have here in Ireland? Rugby Players Association. So they look after, injured players post-career. It was just the UK, the RFU version of that. So it was a list of everybody and anybody playing rugby. It was a great day, actually. It was fantastic.
Ah, right.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Well done. And you also have written about rugby. You have you've written articles for hersport.ie.
That's correct. And Ruck Rugby and Last Word on Sport. And I was also the women's manager in Connacht Rugby as well, the team manager for the women's team.
Very good. Okay. All right. Dara Weston, how are you? Are you well in yourself?
I'm very good. How are you keeping, birthday boy?
I'm grand. Well, thanks for that. Long time no see, Dara.
Exactly, yeah. 4 days.
4 days. 4 days, exactly. Okay, folks. Right, now, tonight, let's start with this. Sabina, seeing as you are our guest,
okay,
I would like to, we'll come to you first.
Thank you.
Connacht Rugby. Their season in the URC, we'll just stick with the URC. How would you classify that? And I'll throw on a PS. Is Pete Wilkins up to the job?
I worked with Pete, and I definitely think he is up to the job. Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. He's an excellent coach. He's actually a fantastic human being as well. He's one of the nicest people I've ever worked with in rugby. Maybe that's his detriment. I don't know. But I definitely think Connacht are suffering from a lack of investment into players. If you look at the amount of players that are leaving at the end of the season, it's phenomenal. To have that many people leaving a rugby team in 1 year is just incredible. Such talent going, like you've Tiernan O'Halloran, he was there when I was there. You've Jared Butler, he's going as well. Cian Kelleher is going. It's huge names. So where are they going to get the money to buy these players? That's the question I ask. Will the IRFU give them the money to buy players? Will they invest into Connacht? Connacht needs serious investment. Look at Ulster, they're kind of turning around with the investment they've got in new coaches, and they had a great performance against Munster last week as well. So once you're given the tools to do your job, you can do your job correctly. But if you're not given the tools to do your job, you can't do your job correctly. And that stands in sports as well.
That is, a very good point. But as you said there, Sabina, where is the money going to come from? Where are Connacht going to get these players that they would surely need?
They definitely need them, Peter. That's the thing. They do need them. They need to replace, those players that have left. I don't know if the academy is bringing them through as quickly as the Leinster Academy or Munster Academy, but they do need investment. Now, will they get outside investment? It's very hard in an area like Galway because the GAA have it all absorbed. They seem to absorb everything in that area. So Connacht are on the back foot and hind foot all the time. So they don't get the same funding locally as, Munster Rugby would get, say, from local business supports. Because it seems to be the money in Galway in particular goes to the GAA first, unfortunately. So that's where they're having a huge problem. Will the IRFU see the massive gap? From when I was there in 2017, the gap was there, and now it just seems to be widening. And without help from the IRFU or a major sponsor, they're just going to dwindle away. And that's, I think I had this conversation with a friend, and maybe I know too much, but I feel, Connacht were on such a crest of a wave after winning the Pro 12 at the time. And there was massive buzz around the place, and it was fantastic. And I loved working in Connacht, every single minute of it. But what I always felt was if they didn't get enough investment, they won't be able to compete with the big boys. And I think that's exactly what we have now. We have that where there's been no investment. So they've no players. They're not attracting any players. They might get maybe one or two players from Leinster if they're lucky. But the reality is they need money from the IRFU to buy players. And that's the stark reality of it all.
All right. Okay. A very good and well-made point, Sabina. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Peter Martin, what do you think about all this? Connacht, their season. Now, but I know you love a stat, Peter. I just to put the four provinces into context, and Sabina come back in. Mike and Dara say to you all. Just the URC. I'm not talking about the any other tournaments. Just the URC, right? So each province has played 18 games. Connacht have they obviously played 18. They've won 9. They've lost 9. So a 50% win ratio or loss ratio, whatever way you want to put it. Munster have won 13, played 18. Obviously, won 13, lost 4, drawn 1. Leinster the same. Same played. They've won 13. They've lost 5, and Ulster won 11, lost 7. Now, Connacht, because we're talking about Connacht, and I wanted to bring it up. It's a pity James Grennan isn't on here to being Connacht's biggest fan to talk about this. Pete, looking at those stats, looking at Connacht, the same question I asked Sabina is Pete Wilkins up to the job? I know he's a great guy. It sounds like a great guy. I've never met the man. Go on, Pete.
Yeah. Well, it's a difficult one to say. Like Sabina has just kind of emphasized really what I think I personally have heard and spoken about, that he's very highly regarded, very highly regarded as a coach. And look, you have to be, a great person as well. We've when we were talking there the other week when we had Brett Igo on and you were talking about Richie Murphy in Ulster, he spoke very highly of Richie, saying he's a fantastic person. Like, he gets to know people. It's genuine. It's, about their backstory. It's a real genuine interest in the person. It's not fake. So look, I perhaps, Pete is the good guy, but maybe he doesn't have the bad guy, in inverted commas, around him. Someone who basically go in and kick the water bottles across the dressing room floor if if guys aren't doing their job, if they're too slow to, if there's no emotional reaction, if there's no kind of, if guys aren't absorbing, a strategy or, a game plan or whatever it is, there's, like there's a saying, like, nice guys don't always come first. And I suppose, that there has to be that kind of that contrast, that yin and yang, I think, in a dressing room, in a coaching area, someone who's the sergeant major, who'll basically, throw down, like, basically look the underperformers, the sub-performers in the eye and say, you're playing for your jersey here now, sunshine, or words to that effect. When you're talking to professional players, like, it ultimately, that the same message has to come across. Like, you're looking at the bench for the next month, unless you pull up your socks for the second half of this match. But when you're having that conversation at half time.
Pete, sorry to interrupt you, and maybe
Yeah.
Sabina, because you know the guy.
Yeah.
I can't see Pete Wilkins saying that to any player. If you don't improve, you're losing your position.
Well, I don't think he would, but I know John Muldoon would. So,
Yes,
I worked with John, and, he is a tough man, and he's very good at what he does. And look, he's had success over in Bristol. He retired when I was in Connacht, actually, and then he went to Bristol, and he's had great success with Pat Lam. So John Muldoon would definitely be that man. In every coaching setup, they have the one that you won't rile, the one you can go to with all your problems, and fix things. And I see Pete in that role. I see John as the hard nut, and he's not going to spare anyone. And also Bundy Aki, when Bundy's having a bad day, you don't want to be around, because he's so focused and so determined. So I'm full sure Bundy is doing like when I was there, when things weren't going right, he riled that dressing room up. And it's the basis of a great team, when you have the vocal coach, and you have the one who exercises and executes the whole plan, and you have the likes of Bundy Aki in your team. Surely they should be playing better than they are. But I think it basically, in my opinion, I think the problem with Connacht, from being there, is they need investment. They need massive investment into their players. They need to try and get, the academy is great and it's fantastic, and Eric Elwood's done a great job with it, but they need to somehow get the talent from the GAA to come over to rugby, and the lure is not there. And they're losing a lot of talent going into the academies for that. And I think without getting some big players soon, Connacht are just not going to be at the races at all. Completely not there.
Okay.
Sabina, can I just ask you then, just in relation, you're talking about the IRFU and the funding and so on, the recent change announced by the IRFU as regards the central contracting funds, where effectively those who with the most central contracts are going to have more money taken out of their budget. Yeah. Given the fact, now correct me if I'm wrong, I think Connacht only have 2 centrally contracted players.
One.
Just one, Bundy.
It's one. It's Bundy. Sorry, I thought Peel might have been on one. But is that going to? Do you feel that is that just is that a waste of time? Is that just basically saying something for the sake of saying it, or do you think it will have some sort of material impact with Connacht?
If they give the money directly back to the provinces, it will. So hypothetically, so we're talking about Leinster having nearly 10 and the rest of the provinces having 1 or 2. If they divvy the money out evenly, yes, they will. And if they sit down with the people in each province and say, where are you struggling? What players do you need the most? I think that would be to have a more open and honest chat. If I was still involved, I think I'd be very vocal in saying, for example, Leinster needs a number 10, Munster needs a few players. Like, you have to stand up and say, this is not working. This model is not working. It's not working. We have one province and they're galloping into stratosphere, and you have the rest who are just like barely hanging on. And I struggle with this because, I'm from Munster, support Munster, worked for Connacht, have a lot of time for Connacht. When you look at those provinces in Ulster and you think, how did we let it get like this? why did the people in those provinces not speak up sooner and say, we need investment, we need investment? Because I tell you, if I was still there, that's exactly what I'd be saying. It's blatantly obvious. The gap is just getting wider and bigger. And I think we need to see how that's going to work first, where they're going to put that money. And money talks. And I'd love to see where they're going to put it. So they're not going to give it all to Leinster. So where is it going? So have they come out and said that? I haven't heard anything about where they're going to put it. But
no, the press release is just basically saying that there's 40 million. 40 million, I think, is the figure that's been, and it's going to be split evenly. And then after that, the 20%. Or whatever way the percentage is, you
wouldn't have an idea, Pete. It could disappear into the ether. You wouldn't have
You just don't know.
They're going to upgrade the padding on the press box seats in the Aviva.
I was going to say, waiting patiently. Dara Weston. Sorry, Mike. Dara Weston got in before you. Go on, Dara. What's your thoughts on this? The whole Connacht scenario.
Okay, so Sabina's made some really good points, and the one word that keeps coming back in my head is again. Because we were at the brink of almost losing Connacht. And from what Sabina's saying, we could be heading back there again.
Yeah.
And it's a province that has given so much. I mean, if you look at, there's some international games when there's more Connacht players, or there's an equal number of Connacht players starting, i.e. Bundy and Mack, as Munster players. That's been the case where there's been Tig and Peter maybe start, and we've had 2 Connacht and 2 Munster players. The problem is that Connacht have or Munster have about 18 players involved in the setup in various shapes and forms. With regard to Pete Wilkins, I think it's kind of a bit unfair to judge him quick. He came in, after the New Zealand game in 22. He had Andy Friend sitting above him as director of rugby for 1 season. So it's really only the last season he's been there, master of the ship kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think with the exception of Sabina, who actually has personal knowledge of the man, it's very hard to judge a coach. A coach could be a nightmare in the dressing room and could be great and supportive of his players in the press, unlike McFarland before he left Ulster, where he just decided, feck it, he was just going to blame everybody but himself. So I think, the public persona of a good coach should be supportive of his team and his players, no matter the result. But a different side in the dressing room at halftime, trying to get everybody together. So, let's say he's had 1 full season on his own. So I think it's a bit too early yet to be judging. And in that full season, then we also had a World Cup as well, where he lost some of his stars, and he's had Mac out, basically.
Yeah, he's had a lot of injuries.
He hasn't had Mac for the whole season, basically.
Yeah.
So that's one of his 3 internationals gone from the squad, and that makes a big impact on the team. So, but yeah, definitely, I think it needs to be looked at where the money is going to go. If Leinster are paying money back for having more central contracts, then it needs to be looked at. The likes of Munster are fairly, they won't go under. They've benefactors like JP McManus, etc., who'll always pay his taxes in Switzerland and then give money to Limerick and Munster rugby and stuff. Maybe Pat McDonough, Supermax. I can see Reedy there. He's ready to hop. Maybe Pat McDonough needs to move to a tax haven so he can put his money into.
Well, there you go. That's it. Okay. Sorry, Dara. I'm just we're going way over on this topic. I don't mean to cut you off rudely. I just want to go on to Mike Reedy. Mike Reedy, your thoughts on Connacht rugby?
Connacht rugby. There's a few things that have hampered them. And international players have been away as one of them. They haven't got the squad. They're a kind of a threadbare squad of like top level players. So they can't cope as well. Well, I mean, and Mac Hansen has been out for literally months now. So it's a big blow to them. They have individually, they have very, very good players. I actually really like the 2 Murrays, the 2 Locks. I think they're both very able players.
Murray. as
And
some
Murray,
commentators
yeah,
call them.
fucking
Murray.
Murray book anyway. And they have that Keen Prem. Listen, they have a very, very decent squad of players.
They do.
Decent front row. They haven't got the best out of any of those players this season. That's the worry for me. Like, and that has got to be.
Mike, whose fault is that? Mike, sorry to interrupt. Whose fault is that?
Well, the
that
Pete
the players?
Wilkins is the man the buck stops with, really in that aspect. Look at the difference at Ulster when Richie Murphy joined, as against McFarland. He's worked with the same group of players who were fucking. They couldn't kick their arse, like 3 months ago or whatever length of time ago he joined, and now they've come back like Mike Lowry and Addison and like players that were really gone downhill and looked as if their careers were fucking on the brink, and now they're revived. So I don't think it's as desperate, as it may seem right now. Things have gone a bit against Connacht this season. They could bounce back, so they could. They're good players. I mean, Bundyaki has been. He's the difference between him playing for Connacht and playing for Ireland is fucking
unbelievable.
Yeah, but now I tell you what. I tell you what. Sorry, Mike. I just want to move on from this, but I want to end on this, right? Sabina. There was a post put up, and I think it was the Connacht Rugby supporters group. I can't remember what it was. That described Connacht's season in one word or a couple of words, and I simply said disjointed. And the reason I said disjointed was I had a quick look back. Back in January, Connacht had a great game against Bristol. They beat them 27-10.
Yeah.
Then in December, they lost by a point to Ulster. And then they go ahead in January and they wallop Munster 22-9. But there was no kind of, right, lads, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. There was no consistency. So for me, it was disjointed. Would you would you agree with my assessment, or would you have one of your own?
No, I would agree with that totally, because you're looking at the score lines and you think they're going to, right, okay, they've got over this hurdle. Maybe they'll be on that high and continue that. Now, when I was there, I worked with Pat Lam for a little bit, and then it went on to the gentleman from Australia, Kieran Keane, and then I was gone then but Pete Wilkins and all those guys were there at the time. And I do believe that it's there. It is in the Connacht players, but 1 week we'd be winning, and like you say, we'd be winning 50 points to nil, and then the next weekend we get hammered 50-0. There was never any consistency. And I suppose maybe it's a bit of the way the Munster season started this year. There was no consistency from what I can see. So do they need that person in there to, I don't know, maybe like a sports psychologist or something to say, right, now this is how we do it, this is how we win. But I know they don't have that person in there, so it's all down to the coaches to make them, ride on that crest of the wave.
Sabina, they probably need you back.
I think so. Yeah,
I think so. I think you should reapply for your position.
I will. I'll go back. I'll be like, "Hi guys, I'm back after my 6-year hiatus."
I'm back. How are you doing?
I'm back.
Okay. Now, the other thing, I know we had an emphasis on Leinster Rugby last week, and I think the week or two prior before that we were talking about Munster Rugby, but we just stick with Connacht at this stage. One player. Dara Weston, I'm going to come to you first on this. One player who has always amazed me that he has not started more at international level was Caelan Blade. He is over 170 caps for Connacht. I think he's got like 2 international caps for the Irish squad. Now I know, like he's 30 now. Jesus Christ, he's 20 years younger than me, but he's 30 now. Saying that, the guy, I think Caelan Blade is a better scrum half than Casey. There you go. Dara, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he is, but Casey's 24. Casey will be 28 at the next World Cup. Blade will be 34. Murray is 34 at the moment. No, sorry, Gibson Park's 34. I think Murray is 36.
Yeah.
So, look, it's a case of I think they'll go for youth. But yeah, definitely, I would say he should definitely be in squads. You know, I can't understand how Conor Murray is still getting games off the bench. Really, to be honest, he's got his Centurions marker, and it's not doing anything to bring on other scrum halves within the squad. You know,
he's a finisher, Dara. He's a finisher, apparently. Conor Murray.
Yeah, but we need to be bringing on lads who can be starters. You know, that's the thing. Like it's you know, if Gibson Park's out injured, you know, if Casey is injured, if we have a load of scrum half injuries, we won't get 80 minutes out of Murray. So we need to be bringing on other young lads. And, you know, Blade is he's still young enough to get his game for Ireland, but I don't see him consistently getting a start because I think they'll be looking at the next World Cup and his age will count against him.
Yeah, true. But he's a player I just like. I think he's a great scrum half. Mike Reedy, Caelan Blade, 2 caps for Ireland, over 170 for Connacht.
Very, very unfortunate to only have 2 caps. However, I mean, he's come at a time when, okay, we had Marmion there before him, like playing for Connacht, so he was struggling to get into the actual Connacht side for a while, and the same probably could be said about Craig Casey, although he's still only a young lad.
Yeah.
But there's a young boy coming at Connacht now, and he's the real deal for me. Young Devine, I think he is going to be a proper.
Devine is good. Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
And I think it's unfortunate for Caelan Blade, but there's the same story could be said about loads of different positions, like in different provinces, you know, for players that haven't had the chances, you know, but. It's unfortunate, but it's just one of these things. He's never getting in. There's nobody getting in ahead of Gibson Park right now, the way he's playing.
At the moment, no. But
so he's obviously and he'll be around for the World Cup. Gibson Park. No, I think he's 31 or 32. He's not 34.
I don't know how old he is. For fuck's sake.
He looks older than he is.
He does actually, Sabine. He does look older than he is.
He's a fab player. But Caelan Blade, I think the ship has sailed for him now for international rugby, to be honest, because like everybody else said, you know, we have to be looking to the future, and people like Casey.
I think you're right, Mike. I think you're right. I think you're right on that. I really don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm just conscious of time.
I'm not being funny, but I'd be bringing young Devine through. I'd be fast tracking him through. We have this obsession in Ireland that players have to be fucking 24 or 5 before they get into the first team. Ask France. Ask Antamac, 19, playing for France full time. Dupont, 20, playing for France full time, and they're two of the best players in the world in their respective positions. We have this obsession that players need to be a certain age before they break into the top level. Look at Leinster with the fly half situation.
You're mentioning you've forgotten to mention one other player, French player, who's around a long time.
Go on.
Would anybody like to hazard a guess?
A French player who's around a long...
French international who seems to have been around like forever.
Aldred, maybe, or I don't know.
No, French player.
Right, tell us.
Again, he was capped when he was a kid.
They do it.
Arguably one of the best players in his position in the world.
Move back. Who's it?
Go on, tell us. Go ahead.
Put your misery. Gail Fickou.
Okay,
Fickou will reach 100 caps for France before he's 30.
Wow.
He's almost 90 odd caps now at this stage, and he's only 28. I don't think he's 29 years of age. He's been around since flipping forever.
Antamac has 50 caps and he's 24. And he missed the World Cup and missed the Six Nations.
There you go. Okay, Sabina, Caelan Blade.
Oh, Caelan was there when I was there, and he's a really top bloke, and he's a very hard worker. Like he'd never see him slacking or anything like that. He was dedicated to the cause. He was dedicated to Connacht, and he did get you were saying about his 2 caps, and he played very well for Ireland, and then he disappeared. So, as Mike was saying, when I was there, Kieran Marmion was there as well. So, Blady was always the number 2 in that choice. And look, Kieran was getting selected for Ireland as well at the time. So I suppose Pat Lam and the other coaches had their allegiance with him. But I do think he's a fantastic player, and I have to agree. I think he's missed the boat, unfortunately. A bit like Simon Zebo, you know. It's
Oh, don't start, Sabina. Don't start.
Do you not like him?
No.
Oh, I was just about to say he's fantastic, but never got a look in. Sorry, Peter.
No, yeah, Grant. No, Jesus, no. Have your opinion. Have your opinion. Speak your mind.
I'm sure you have your opinion, Sabina, because this is part of the entertainment with Mr. Burke.
I tell you what, Sabina. I'll tell you what. Right, there's 3 players I think are overrated or are spoofers. Everyone in the group knows this. Simon Zebo, Finn Russell, Manny Lebach, and who's the other one? Oh, Stuart Hogg. Sorry, there's 4. There you go.
I agree in a couple of those. Because Simon Zebo and Finn Russell, weren't they the best of pals at Racing? So they were always up to devilment. Stuart Hogg, I never rated him. I never liked him. So
Thank you.
But I hear he's coming out of retirement.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Jeez.
I heard today he's coming out of retirement. So
Did he get a new body or something?
Yeah, I got to change.
That's the reason why he packed it in, his body was screaming at him.
Fuck's sake.
I think he was asked to leave rather than he had a choice in leaving.
Yes,
You're
he was.
right.
100%.
Yes.
He was.
Yes. Yeah.
I got it from inside. I got some inside information which I won't divulge in public, but
Of course.
he's not a credible person, to be honest.
He's not. No, he's not someone you want in rugby, to be honest. We need to get out that behaviour.
He's more of a footballer.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's more of a footballer or a GAA person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, GAA, Jesus, Sabina. Fucking hell.
You know,
We're losing viewers here.
You live in Ireland.
Sorry, no love lost to GAA.
You'll be right out of Limerick, you will.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay.
Right, hold on. Right, anyway, Dara, I've asked everyone about Ken and Bate, haven't I?
Yes.
Yeah, I normally do this. I forget where I am and stuff. Right, now, the other thing, another thing, before we get to the games that have happened and are going to happen, excuse me, neutral referees, Mike Reedy. There was a few disgruntled people saying, why was Frank Murphy appointed as referee for the Munster-Ulster game? And there has been a few kind of calls for the IRFU, World Rugby, whatever the fuck it is, when they're deciding on these things, to have a neutral ref, right? A neutral ref when there are obviously country interpros, Irish interpros, French interpros, English interpros going on, or whatever it may be. A neutral referee, a neutral TMO, a neutral officiating setup for those sort of games. Would you support that, Mike?
Absolutely not. I'll tell you
why not? Why not? Go on.
I'll tell you why. Because you're now delving into the credibility of a match official, which is something that should.
No, I don't. No, Mike, I don't. No,
if you're saying a referee could possibly be biased. No,
Mike, hold on. I'm not saying
but people are.
No, I know. No, I'm not. I don't think that's the sentiment that's been said. I think to placate a situation, if you see a player who has previously played for a team that he is or she is officiating in, can lead to questions if there is a questionable card or no card or penalty given or whatever it may be. Would it not just be easier for everyone?
Well, of course it would.
To have, if you have 2 Irish teams and an Interpro, have Ben Whitehouse ref it, right, and have a completely English setup, TMO or whatever, Welsh or whatever it is. Yes, sorry, Peter, right. So, like, would you not go down that route and just to stop any second
if that,
question, sir.
I mean, if you have a position where you can do that, all well and good. But I think we're wrong to start pandering to anybody, because rugby has always had the credibility. Well, listen, lads, we put ourselves up on the fucking moral high ground. So we claim the moral high ground when it comes to credibility of our players and our match officials. And if we can't support any match official, to question the credibility of a match official is embarrassing, and it's something that should not. I mean, Scotland did it in the World Cup when they played against France. They called him the term cheat was used, and that when we start going down that road, we've lost, because it's very difficult to get match officials these days. They're not well paid for what they do. And
that's where the problem lies, though, guys. And sorry for interrupting you, because I can't actually believe that this is a thing. When I was back refereeing 2011 to 2013, the standard just wasn't there. But Munster Rugby were churning out good referees, and unfortunately, they were the ones. And it's kind of the other provinces are getting there, but still, it comes down to cost. It comes down to capability, and it comes down to availability. And the wider public don't realise that. They might say, "Oh, we need a referee to referee Ulster, Munster," but they need someone to be at that level. But there's nobody in Connacht or Leinster at that level or available. So then it goes to a match official from Munster, and you are completely neutral. Yeah, you are affiliated with the Munster branch, but you are completely neutral, and that thought never crossed your mind. You're there to do a job. As Mike was saying, it's so hard to get referees. It's getting worse because the abuse that referees are getting now is on par with soccer. So if you have the likes of Frank Murphy, who's well capable of refereeing at that level, his integrity should never be brought into it. He's a professional. It's his job, and he's there to do a job.
But Sabina, would you say it's unfair of the IRFU to put him in that position? Because automatically you're going to give the trolls, you're basically feeding the trolls to abuse him. Because like it or not, my wife went to college with him in UCC. He was backup scrum half to her little brother on the UCC team. Mm-hmm. He played for Munster. He played for Connacht. So, I mean, putting him in charge of a Munster game is basically giving all the trolls ammunition just to fire at him. And we've seen Wayne Barnes saying, the abuse that refs getting, it's just not on. So to be honest, I would think it's actually unfair to be putting somebody who has connections with a province, despite the fact that they're perfectly capable of being neutral during the game. It's unfair to put them in that position, because they're the ones who are going to cop the flack when the result doesn't go the way of the other fans.
But unfortunately, there's not enough referees at that level from other provinces to referee the game. So what happens then? Do we call the games off?
Is it that the IRFU are too tight to actually fly somebody over from Wales to ref the game?
It's not the IRFU as such, it's the competition holders and availability, and these are all, divvied out. Like when I was officiating the game, or, when I was, more involved, that this referee's integrity never came into it. It seems to be getting worse. I remember when I was working for Connacht and I couldn't get over, I was standing on the sideline and we were playing Bath or someone, and I couldn't comprehend the abuse the referees were getting, and I knew the referees. I was absolutely mortified. And I remember saying to the referees, apologising profusely, obviously, for the abuse they were getting. But I was saying, is this creeping into rugby now? And they're like, yes, it has. So we have an issue where we have people who are not rugby people coming to the games because they're getting a free pass. And then you have the keyboard warriors behind their keyboards abusing people. But we have to, as professionals, remain professional and say, we're not going to bow down to us. He's well able to referee in the match and he's well able to be neutral. He's getting paid enough to take it on the chin, unfortunately. But what we're going to have in the next few years, we're not going to have enough referees to referee any of the games. And that's going to be a huge problem in the next few years.
All right. Okay. Pete, Mike, any thoughts on this?
That's just the only thing I was just going to mention, really, and I suppose just put it out there, is that we see is a lot of the abuse. I just wonder, is it coming from challenges from players on the pitch. You know, I remember when I played, everything had to be directed through the captain, or perhaps maybe the pack leader if the captain was, for whatever reason, indisposed. We see, and you know, I don't know whether this is a product of the way the game is going. You see other players, you know, saying stuff to the referee. Like, we'll say, for example, at scrum time, Andrew Porter gets a lot of stick for his scrummaging technique, and you know, Porter is in a scrum. The scrum goes down, and all of a sudden, it's Porter's getting a scrum penalty pinged against him. And you see him; he might just kind of say a word or two or something to the referee, and he's putting his hands in the air, saying, "What was that for?" Like, you know, he just, you know, expressing his incredulity at the decision. I'm just wondering, is it a case that an awful lot of players now, because we're at the point in the game where the 1% makes that difference, and that's mean that 1% can be anywhere on the pitch, be it, you know, a little bit of skullduggery at scrum time or whatever the case may be, and some of it also is kind of knowing the rules perhaps a little bit better than maybe the opposition. You're always looking for that tiny little bit of an angle, and I just wonder, is it where a player thinks he's been smart, going for a ball at the back of a ruck, if it's out, but we know the referee, the player can be looking over the ruck and saying it's out, but the referee has to call it, it's out. And if he goes for it and he picks it up and then he's questioned this bit of back chat with the referee, I just wonder, is some of this abuse effectively being player led, not intentionally, but because they're trying to push the boundaries, push the envelope on getting the edge in the game? And I wonder, is is it coming from, is it a result of the players pushing it with referees who aren't in a position, who shouldn't be talking to the referee? Should be, when it's always just through the captain to question a decision.
But sure, Peter, remember when the captain or the referee refused to speak to James Ryan? Remember that? That wasn't a good look.
Co-captains, carry on.
Yeah, Mike. Sorry, Pete. Mike, go on briefly about this.
I've spoken about it already. I've given my.
Oh, have you? All right, okay.
Dara hasn't.
Dara,
that was against La Rochelle, wasn't that correct?
I can't remember who.
2 years ago, I remember.
I just remember the incident, Sabina. I just remember the incident.
Yeah, I think it was. There was a bit of the problem, I think, there was language barrier or something. I remember reading about this recently. Rog and James Ryan had written something about it, and it was something to do with language barrier. He wasn't ignored. He felt he was, but he couldn't understand what they were saying or something.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah.
Dara, sorry, did you say anything about this? Or did
I did.
You did. Okay, fair enough. A load of comments have come in there. Jesus Christ, they're just all loaded up there. I don't know what the hell my laptop is doing there. Mark Hunter, yeah, Leinster need a 10. I think that's in reference to your point, Sabina, ages ago.
Yeah, about directing where the money could go. Like
exactly,
if we pick a team.
Yeah. Christopher Goff. Where the hell? I didn't even see these. Good evening, ladies and gents. Apologies late again. Okay. Thank you, Christopher.
Hello.
Good to have you with us, Gregor. And sorry, folks, there's a load of them here. Alan Dorman, good on it. Thanks, Alan. Cheers. Megan Augusta, don't mind him, Sabina. His room is covered in posters.
Who's that?
Your Finn Russell posters, is it?
Finn Russell or Simon Zebo, is it?
Exactly, probably Sabina, yeah, but one or the other, yeah.
Yeah.
Catherine Keegan, sorry, Mike, this is my fault. Was an observation v Munster v Ulster. Okay. So I'm not putting all the comments up here because it's just there's too many. This is Gregor Galway. Piper was referee Sexton. Okay, I don't know what that is. Okay, anyway, that's just caught up. I've skipped out. Sorry, folks, I've skipped out in a few comments that came in there. There was just too many that they just popped up on my screen there. I didn't see them coming in. Anyway, now, Peter Martin, I'll come to you first on this. Bernard Jackman saying that Leinster need to offload a 10. Who's it going to be?
Oh, God. Look, it's easy kind of point out who is better suited perhaps to the style of play, who is perhaps more of a threat, in general play. But then you look at what Ross has done for Leinster, and it's going to be tough, serious tough conversations had. I think the only thing again I kind of say is, I think what needs to be done is there needs to be a decision, a cultural thing, and I've said this there the other week, where Ross Byrne gave an interview to Pat McCarry earlier on this season. I think it was the beginning of the season, where Pat McCarry asked the question, will Leinster be turning to drop goal or perhaps attempt drop goals during games as a means to win them? And Ross Byrne's response was no. If as long as Leinster are winning games, why would they change? I suppose my view on that was that you're looking at Leinster perhaps dominating, as they do about 80 to 90% of games they play, is that they're better consistently than so much of the opposition. But unfortunately, when it comes to the tight end of the season, where the silverware is being handed out, that game plan, that strategy isn't getting it done at the moment.
So Pete, who would you nominate that Bernard Jackman said? Now I know Bernard watches this because he's a member. He's a member in the group. Who would you recommend? Bernard Jackman said that they've got to lose one. Now, in fairness, there's three. Frawley, as we know, is a utility. He's 12, 13, he's a 15, he's a 10. We got the two Burns, and we got Prendergast. Who and Tector. Who would you, Pete? Just go on, name a name. Who would you have leave?
Who would I have leave? Well, I suppose, look, Charlie Tector isn't anywhere within an ass's roar, it seems.
Okay.
So at the moment.
So
Charlie Tector.
Well, he's the obvious one. That he's the obvious one, because he's not. Has he got into the URC? He's played, I think, correct. I stand to be correct in this, of course. I think he's made appearances last season and maybe this in the B/C sides that were sent to South Africa. He himself and Sam Prendergast were the two 10s were sent on tour last season. I certainly don't recall them being involved in any of the home URC games against any of the Italian or South African teams.
Okay.
This season.
Okay. Thanks, Pete. Mike Reedy, who would you let go?
Well, I'm a Munster man, but
yeah, I know that. We were talking about Connacht earlier.
That said, I wouldn't be letting Sam Prendergast go anywhere, right. Purely because I feel he's going to learn more playing against. I've said this before. He's going to learn more playing beside Gibson Park and players like that. He's going to get better. I mean, would you send him to Connacht, where they are struggling at the moment? Is that going to make him a better player? I don't think so. And I've been very vocal for a long time now. I don't rate either of the Byrne brothers. I don't think either of them are good enough to be playing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, Frawley should be number one right now, and Prendergast should be.
So Frawley at 10 all day, every day.
100% all day. That's his best position, and he's a better player than either of the Byrne brothers. How he's not starting at number 10 every week is beyond me.
Okay, Sabina, what would you say?
I would agree with Mike as a Munster woman, and I suppose we're looking at it from the outside in. Frawley, number 10, and I don't rate the Burns at all. I feel they've been great servants to Leinster rugby, and there's obviously an allegiance there, and there's probably stuff we don't know about. But for them to pick him week in, week out, at the end, it was blatantly obvious from watching that final that his game management skills are not on par. He's, as a number 10, you control the game, and he wasn't. He looked like a rabbit in headlights. He was just doing his own thing. There was no 1 minute he'd make a great kick and then the next he'd flop. He wasn't communicating with any of his players. And maybe he feels that he doesn't have to. And that's not a good number 10. And even, Rog was my favourite player of all time, and he would roar and roar, but he knew how to control a game. He roared at players, and they knew what he was on about, and they trusted him. I don't think the Leinster team have faith in Byrne, but I feel he knows he's going to get selected. For what reason, I don't know. But to pick Ross Byrne over Frawley is just mind-blowing. I can't figure it out. It's just the obvious reason that Leinster, are missing out on trophies that they should be getting is because they don't have a world-class number 10, and he's just not cutting it. He's not there.
Yeah. As a staunch Leinster rugby supporter, I totally agree with everything you've just said there, Sabina.
Thank you.
Dara Weston, what do you reckon? Who's leaving?
Yeah, I mean, depends. Do we want to get rid of somebody to develop them for the Irish squad, or do we want to get rid of somebody because we just have too many? If we want to get rid of somebody to develop them for the Irish squad, I would say Sam Prendergast. And then Frawley is in as starting 10 or backup 10 to Ross Byrne. If we want to get rid of somebody because we don't have use for them, and I feel guilty saying this because my favourite pub, Harry Byrne. I mean, we've seen him trying to play in 10, doesn't work. Ross was the apprentice to Sexton, I suppose, in Leinster, and so he was seen as the heir apparent, but in some ways he's the apprentice that never fully qualified. So, and he's kind of inherited Ireland caps along with Crowley since Sexton has gone. So I think that's why he's still starting as 10, because it's in the Irish team's interest to have him regularly playing, just in case they need him.
Yeah.
But yeah, personally, I would have liked to have seen Sam go on a loan to Connacht just to get consistent game time week in, week out. Because unfortunately he won't get it in Leinster. Okay. Not as consistently as he deserves.
Now, good point, Darius. Now, in case people don't know who are watching this, and this particular show gets about 400 or 500 views every week, the Byrne brothers, their dad is Pat Byrne, who now a few of you know this, but CityJet. Pat Byrne set up CityJet. That's why Leinster have a CityJet, and sometimes they fly Ryanair. That's who the Byrne brothers' dad is. He is a beneficiary of Leinster rugby, just so people know.
And I think that's the main reason he keeps on getting selected, unfortunately. It's coming down to politics and money, and it's not about who's good enough. There's an allegiance there, and it's a very political organisation, rugby, and there's the unsaid rule, and oh yeah, but his dad has given us this. And unfortunately, before I knew that, I always thought, what is the reason? What is the reason? I was asking it every week. Why is he being picked? And then when I was informed, I was like, aha, that's the reason, because I know how it works. So
did I tell you that, Sabina?
You did, because I work for an airline now, and he couldn't believe that I didn't know about this.
That's right. I couldn't fucking believe it that you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll tell you what, as far as I'm concerned, if that's the case, Leo Collins should resign his position and say,
Jesus Christ, here we go. Nigel fucking Farage, the sign's up, fucking Leo out. How are you doing?
He should either stand up and say, either I pick the best players are at my disposal, or I cannot pick this team. It's as simple as that. Players cannot be picked for any other reason other than they're good enough to be the best player in that position.
Mike,
but isn't it blatantly obvious though, Mike? It's not blatantly obvious to you now why he's getting picked.
Well,
let's not forget he can kick. He can kick.
Yeah.
It's
Ross Byrne is not the worst player in the world, but
he's not the worst.
No,
he's not the worst. He's not the worst, but look, I put Ross Byrne. Jesus, here we go. Look, Leinster fan, how are you doing? I put Ross Byrne on the same level as Finn Russell and Manny Lebaka.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You're saying he's a million pound
spoofers.
player, is what you're saying.
They're all fucking spoofers. The fucking lot of them. They're fucking spoofers.
I don't think he's a spoofer, to be fair.
I don't think he's a spoofer.
He's not.
He's a spoofer. I just don't think. I think he knows he's going to get picked, so he doesn't work to improve.
Peter Burke.
That's a fucking spoofer, Sabina.
Peter
that's
Burke.
A fucking spoofer.
Peter Burke.
Yes.
That is the most fantastic, shiny, large, jumbo-sized can of wriggly worms you've just opened.
Couldn't give a fuck. You don't mean.
Congratulations.
I'm jealous. I'm drinking tea.
I don't care. I say what I fucking want. Anyway, now
you've given Reedy a soapbox, and you've now guaranteed he'll never fly CityJet.
I'll never get a fucking.
I won't apply for a job there.
I'll never get a fucking press pass again. Jesus Christ,
no.
You never get an airline ticket again.
No,
I'll give you a seat on our airline, Peter.
Thank you, Sabina. Thank you. Now, a quick one before we go into the games that were played, because Jesus Christ, we're approaching the hour mark. Before we go into the games that were played, the two Munster fans here, Sabina and Mike, I'm going to ask you two first. If you watched the game, the Ulster match, Munster v Ulster, I'm going to ask ladies first. Sabina, I'll ask you first. Should Snyman had stayed on the pitch after his tackle on Addison?
No.
Okay, go on.
Why? No. I could get into it technically, but I'm not going to, so I'm going to pass that to Mike.
No, get into it technically. Go on, get into it. Why?
I don't think... I think South African rugby players have a different mantra than the rest of us, and they seem to get away with a lot more than anyone else. And I just feel that if it was someone else, they would have gone off. That's just my opinion on it. That's all I'm going to say on it.
Can I ask you this as a referee?
Yeah.
Once you acknowledged that there was a penalty there, and it was a shoulder to the head and there was no attempt, is there not certain rules there that you have to follow a certain chain, and if there's mitigation it's a yellow, if there's no mitigation it's a red?
Well, from my interpretation of the laws have obviously evolved and changed since I was refereeing, but any collision like that, it was a yellow or a red, and that's the way I see it. I don't mess around with any sort of head contact, and I think we need to set a precedent that any form of contact with the head is dangerous, and I felt at least a yellow, and I was surprised he didn't get it. And look, we're taking the referee's job out of their hands every day now with, TMO and everything like that. But for me, I wouldn't have taken any chances on it, and I would have given him a yellow. That was my opinion.
And Sabina, Nigel Owens agrees with you about that.
Oh, does he?
About the TMO thing.
Yeah. We're completely, it infuriates me. I would hate to be refereeing now. We're not letting the referee make a decision or control the game. It's all, I'm afraid of the abuse I'm going to get, or the review meeting in 2 days. I better, bring it back to the TMO. But lads, the amount of minutes we're wasting in every game, the momentum is gone. The atmosphere is gone. It goes dead. People are like, all right, I'll go to the bar. You're losing the crowd. It's just so monotonous now. And I just feel that we're just appeasing everybody else, but we're ruining the game in the process.
Well, Sabina, would you do away with the TMO then?
No, because I think for things like the head injuries, and if you want to, double check, and that's why I was shocked that he didn't get a yellow the other day. But for that, I completely agree that you should have it. And for off the ball stuff, it is really good. But we shouldn't be saying every decision that a ref nearly makes now goes to TMO. I remember watching one game and he nearly went to the TMO. Every single decision. He couldn't make any decision himself. And it was just very infuriating. And we're losing the momentum of the game.
True. The opening pool stages of last year's World Cup were
yes.
because
They were a
everything went
disgrace.
to TMO and then bunker.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
World Rugby wanted to use their shiny new bunker toy, and
Yeah.
it was just.
I think that was.
But I tell you what, we had Reggie Corrigan on the show, and Reggie was saying that the TMO should only be used for a situation where there is a question over a grounding of the ball for a try.
Yeah,
other than
I
that,
completely agree.
Other than that, forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Mike Reedy, what do you think that the Snyman incident, should that have been a yellow or a red?
Yellow card all day.
Yellow card all day.
It was mitigated down from possibly being a red.
Because Addison was propelled. Yeah, because Addison dipped. Yeah.
So he was propelled into him. So, but anytime there's head contact, first of all, it's agreed that there was an act of foul play. So then they decide it starts at a red card. If there's a mitigation, it comes down to a yellow, and if there's further mitigation, which Frank Murphy seemed to make up in this. Now this is the one big decision he got wrong in that game.
Yeah, and, I agree.
He mitigated that down to a penalty only, which was wrong. It was wrong, lads. We
totally wrong.
Player welfare has to be the number one priority in any sport for that matter. But and they're going to open up all sorts of cans of worms. We're playing into the hands of the bloody South Africans and the Kiwis. That's what they want. They want
exactly what I felt.
Yeah, Mike, seriously, mercenaries, all this. I can hear your noise of fucking head coming out with you. Peter Martin, Snyman, should he have stayed in the pitch?
Absolutely not. I agree with everything's been said so far. That absolute farce, a poor decision from Frank Murphy. It just like once it's head contact, it should be started red, and if there's mitigation, otherwise there's a card. Look, if you're talking about head contact, I don't know if anybody saw the State of Origin game. There was a guy, big. I don't know if he's Australian of Samoan or Polynesian heritage. Absolutely horrific incident.
I saw
that today. Was that yesterday?
That was area. Murray Kinsler had it up on Twitter.
Yeah, that's horrific.
The player who basically got effectively serious whiplash, he was slipping. He was, to my mind, his knees were bent. He was going down, but it was awful. Now apparently it's only the sixth. It's only the fifth or sixth player who's been sent off in a State of Origin game in the history of State of Origin games. But flipping hell, yeah. Anyway, look, just to clarify that, it was definitely Snyman shouldn't have remained on the pitch.
Great job. Okay, thanks, Pete. Dara, the Snyman hit on Addison. Should he stayed on the pitch?
Yeah, look, I think player safety is so important these days, and it's important to the future of rugby because there's parents, even former internationals, who are questioning where they let their kids play nowadays. Yeah. You've ex-players queuing up to sue over brain injuries they have accumulated. So I think anything head contact, straight away it has to be a card, be it red or be it yellow. And that needs to come from World Rugby. There needs to be a consistent line because they're constantly changing what the definitions are and all this kind of stuff. So it just, I think it should have been at the very least a yellow.
Okay.
But that was their mantra last year. That was their big mantra, World Rugby. I'm sorry, I'll finish up on this, but that was anything head contact was immediate. Yeah. You look at a red and then you mitigate it down. But the fact that it was going to be a red and the least it should have been a yellow and he still remained on, I was just a bit perplexed about that because what precedent are you setting for young Johnny who's playing at the weekend and goes along and gives someone a dig in the head, and this is where it all comes, this is where it all goes, you have to be teaching it right at the end of the day.
I think World Rugby have lost a bit of credibility, in my view, over the 20-minute red card that's been allowed in Super Rugby.
Mm.
I was
Like,
going to
that
ask.
is-
I was going to ask Pete. I was going to ask, and sorry for cutting across you. I was going to ask Sabina because you're from the background of officiating and all that sort of stuff. We won't go into too much because we're over the hour mark and we've games to just talk about. Do you think, Sabina, you being a referee, you've worked in the environment. Do you think World Rugby are doing a good job?
I think the structure is there and the money is there, but I think it needs to do better. And the way I see that is they keep on going from focusing on head injuries this week and the scrum the following week. There's no consistency. So it changes every week what they're focusing on. And it's like, can we just get one thing right and then move on to the next? Why are they focusing on one thing today and then something else will be tomorrow? They're just overcomplicating the game. And instead of getting people to understand that, player welfare is number one, they're not really, because maybe last week Frank Murphy was at a workshop and their focus was the scrum or was a rucks or Mauls. And this is where it's getting lost, because he would probably on one day would have said, no, straight away, red card, yellow card. But because that's not at the forefront of referees, it keeps on changing, that they keep on giving different things to focus on. I think they need to stop jumping between the laws and changing them and going back, and they're just making it not fun anymore, and they're overcomplicating a simple process, and get the basics right and then work on everything else.
Yeah, I would totally agree, Sabina.
100%.
Totally agree.
Sabina,
How long have we left under Kim Jong Beaumont before he retires?
God, he's there a long time now. God, he was there when I was refereeing.
Fucking brutal. He's
That
fucking
fucker is 10
brutal.
years older than me.
He must have lined his pockets at this stage.
I wouldn't give him the fucking TV remote, that fucker. I wouldn't. I've no time for him. He's absolutely making a fucking balls of it.
Oh, he's not
He
short
really
of it, no.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so. Anyway, right, folks. The games that happened and the games that are going to happen, we fly through these because we're well over the hour mark. The Leinster, Pete and Dara. Dara, I met you at the game, so I'm going to ask you first, Dara. Leinster 33, Connacht 7. What did you make of that game?
Great game.
Well, it was because we won.
No, but I thought it was my one grievance about that game, and I said it before the game in the forums. Why could they not make Rhys Ruddock captain? After all he did for Leinster, we knew he wasn't going to be staying on for the full 80. Yeah. They could have made him captain, and then somebody else taken over as captain when he went off. But no, I thought it was a good game. They did what they needed to do. That's for purposes of time. I'll leave it at that.
All right, okay. Pete, you're a Leinster fan.
Yeah, I said it before. I think I put it in the group. I was a little bit incredulous at the actual team selection, because it had all the potential to go badly wrong. Now, thankfully, it didn't. I managed to switch on the game after 20 minutes, and it was effectively over. They were well ahead, and Connacht looked like they were on the holidays, as somebody else had kind of said, which pretty much summed up. Look, Prendergast was being lauded for having a fantastic game, running it really well. That's great. It's another, the positive mark for him. But realistically, I think we do really need to turn the dial up and get him, throw him into a European Cup game, and just really kind of have a good, so he gets a good test. Because you see, ultimately, like coming back to the whole conversation about getting minutes and comparing him and see how he gets on. If they're not willing to say, right, we've got 2 pool matches up next season and you're going to start both of them, and then we'll see exactly what you're like compared to Harry or Ross, if they're still there, of course. Then the screw tightens on the decision. Who is long term going to look at, or indeed, Kieran Frawley. We know Kieran Frawley can do it at that level. He showed against La Rochelle, but for Keane Prendergast, get him to start a couple of games at that higher level. But look, just to close off, it was a job done. It had potential to go wrong. It didn't, thankfully, and roll on this weekend.
Okay. Sabina, have you got a light? You're gone very dark.
Yeah, I do. It's gone very dark here. I'm going to turn one on.
I know,
One
yeah,
second.
Go ahead.
That's it.
Is that better?
The Lord
Well,
said,
well,
"Pretty
go on.
light, in which case you can see
There
for
you
gone very
go.
dark.
That's better. Yes, there you go. Right.
Hi.
Okay. Thanks, Sabina. Brilliant. Right. Okay. Before I come to you, Sabina, Mike Reedy, Leinster v. Connacht, Leinster winning that 33-7. Did you
Well,
see it?
basically, Connacht never struck a blow until
No.
like they just weren't at the races at all, and it looked as if you can't say they weren't interested because they were. Jack Carty done his usual fucking mistakes. I was really impressed with young Prendergast. I have to say, I thought he managed the game well. He had two brilliant passes for two of the tries. One, he actually feigned a pass to his left and went right, and it was a brilliant move. And he has that ability, and that's something that a 10 needs to be able to do. Change things. Crowley can do. Crowley does it as well. But very impressed with that. Leinster done what they needed to do. They got five tries.
It was very Sexton-esque, wasn't it, Mike?
Yeah. He's just a very talented boy, and he needs to be playing at the top level week in, week out, and get game time. He's 21, nearly 22 years of age. He's good enough. He's old enough. People are saying he's not big enough. He needs to fill out. He doesn't need to fill out.
He does need to fill out, Mike. He does.
He's all right. He'll gradually build that up.
Hold on, but before I come to Sabina on this, so you're saying he needs to play more rugby? Would you?
Absolutely, he plays. Yeah.
Okay. Would you ship him off the Connacht?
Sorry.
Would you ship him off the Connacht?
No, absolutely not. No, he should stay at Leinster and play.
All right. Okay. Sabina, go ahead.
The Munster game. I only saw the Munster.
No. We're talking about your nemesis, Leinster v Connacht.
I didn't see the game, so I have no comment on it. Only that I was shouting for Connacht.
Okay. Well, I know you were. Right, let's go to the other game, which was I wrote a review of this for the Ruck This page. Munster 29, Ulster 24. There was an audible sigh of relief around Thomond.
Yeah.
After the final whistle. What did you make of that, Sabina?
Why do we make it so difficult?
I don't know.
You look, it's happened a few times this year. Maybe Munster underestimated how good Ulster actually were when they rocked up. I suppose maybe they thought they were inheriting the previous Richie Murphy era Ulster, but honestly, since Richie Murphy has come in, it's like a new team, even though it's not, but their mantra is totally different. So maybe part of it was that Munster underestimated how good Ulster were going to be, and then finally got into sixth gear and took off. But it was a close one. They were winning for quite a couple of times during that game. Ulster were on top. So look, we've got Ospreys on Friday night. I have the bag packed to go down the road to Limerick, and you'd kind of think that we have it in the bag with the current form. But as I said to you yesterday, Peter, like, our performances are sketchy at times. Now, we are bringing it back the business end of the season, and it's fantastic. We done it last year and won, but why do we have to make it so difficult week in, week out, when we should be on paper walking these games? Now, I'd be very confident walking into Thomond Park on Friday night saying we have this in the bag. But part of me has this little doubt that Munster doubt themselves. And I don't know if Mike agrees with me on that.
I don't know whether they
I'll tell you what.
themselves.
I'll tell you what. Munster fans here, Mike and Sabina.
Mm-hmm.
The head-to-head between Munster and Ospreys, they played each other 48 times. Munster have won 30 games. Ospreys have won 17, and they've drawn 1. So you're talking about a 60-40 split in Munster's favour.
Mm-hmm.
The playoff knockout head-to-head record is they played 4. Ospreys have won 1, and Munster have won 3. Now I could go back. I'm not going to because it's too long. The results of that game. So all stats point in favour of a Munster win, right? Mike Reedy, how do you being the other Munster fan, how do you see this going? Munster v Ospreys. Go ahead.
Munster v Ospreys. Well, I'd be very disappointed if Munster didn't prevail in the game at home in Thomond Park. Probably, I would imagine. I'd like to think there'd be a full house for that, a quarter final of any competition. I thought the game at the weekend.
I'm just time conscious, so I'm skipping
okay.
ahead. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll jump. I'm fine. Yeah. There's a few little things they're going to be missing. They're going to be missing. Hearn is going to be missing, and Carberry isn't going to be there. But Barron is back in apparently training anyway, and they also have probably Frisch. I don't think Nankerville is going to make it. I think Frisch is going to make it.
Yeah.
And there was a Lairn hole there at the weekend with the centres. You know, Sean O'Brien has played all okay-ish, but when Carberry came on and played kind of as a second. First 5'8", you know, he made a massive difference. I know he's out for the weekend again. I'd be shocked if Munster don't win that game.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be a massive score now because Ospreys played really well against Cardiff for the weekend. So,
okay, go on, Sabina. The Ospreys game. What do you reckon?
Oh yeah, I agree, Mike. Like on paper, we should really walk that game, and I'd be very surprised if we didn't. Do have a few injuries. With Frisch is back this week, which it's unfortunate that he's leaving at the end of the season. But I don't think it's sold out, which I'm shocked at. But I think there will be a big.
Sabina, why are you shocked at that? It's in Thomond.
I know
they struggle to sell out games.
I know, but you think that I know. Do you know what? I think the Friday evening thing, I know a few of my friends can't make it because they won't be finished work in time. I would have hoped what I was aiming for was a Saturday 5 o'clock kickoff, but we didn't get that. So unfortunately, they haven't sold out Thomond in a hell of a long time. And now this kickoff at 7:30 on a Friday evening when people will only be finished work. It's not the ideal timing, unfortunately.
Okay. Dara Wesson. This particular game, Munster v the Ospreys, looking at the stats, it looks like Munster should win this easily.
Yeah, well, from our Munster fans, it's nice to hear the arrogance that us Leinster fans are always being accused of coming back.
I'm no arrogance at all.
Mike saying we should win it easy. One title in 12 years, and suddenly everything's being assumed.
I never said they should win it easily. I said they should win it. I would be disappointed if they didn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said easily. Sorry, I've been listening.
They did not.
I live with a Cork woman, so I've been listening to her going on for ages about how they're going to win the title again. In fact, she still has last year's Munster URC champions poster on the fridge. Yeah, look, it's Welsh teams are consistently inconsistent. To be honest, I'm surprised the Ospreys made it this far. So, yeah, I think Munster will do it. And Ulster were robbed last week.
Oh, okay.
Because if Snyman had been carded, he wouldn't have scored that try. Maybe somebody else might have, but I think Ulster would have actually snatched the game.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
We're never going to know that.
All right, okay. Come on, jeez, we're way out. Peter Martin, quick.
Yeah, look, I think Munster will take the Ospreys at home by probably 15 points. But Toby Booth is like the Ospreys are probably the best of the Welsh regions. Toby Booth is a very fine coach. Anywhere he's gone, his track record is very, very good. He's got them playing some good stuff. They were very good against Cardiff. I saw a couple of what the workload they got in to get into the position that they're in, because they've been hammered with injuries and so on throughout the whole season. But look, Munster, they've got their wind at the sails. They're getting everybody back. It's all falling into place for them to have, basically almost a full deck to choose from in the business end of the season yet again. So look, I've said it. I think they'll do it.
Okay, let's fly through the other three games. Just a one-word answer or as few words as you can manage. So, Mike, Leinster v Ulster. Go for it.
Oh, Leinster. They'll win. They'll win it. That's all they need to do, and they'll win it.
Okay, Pete.
Yeah, all the big guns will be back because it's shit or bust, so Leinster will win it.
Okay, Dara.
Leinster, bonus point, probably about 10 points over Ulster, I'd say. I think Ulster will manage to score 2 or 3.
Okay, Sabina.
Leinster will win it. The eyes are on the prize now, so their eyes are on URC, so they have to win it.
Okay, Sabina, back to you. Glasgow, the other quarterfinals. Glasgow are playing the Stormers.
My heart says Glasgow. My head says Stormers.
So go on, call your winner. Come on, Sabina. There's no sitting on the fucking fence here now. Come on.
I would say the Stormers.
Right, okay. Dara.
Yeah.
I think family flowers only to Glasgow. I think the Stormers will do it.
Okay, Pete.
Like, I honestly couldn't give a shit because it doesn't involve an Irish team.
Fair enough. Thanks, Pete.
I actually
Mike,
think Glasgow
go
will
on.
win it. I think Glasgow will win it. Glasgow went to South Africa a couple of weeks ago, and were very unfortunate in both games they played there. They didn't win either of them, but they played well against the Bulls and the Lions. So the Stormers haven't been great, and they don't travel well. I think Glasgow will win that at Scotstoun.
Yeah, Stormers don't travel.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. Okay, and the last game, and we'll end the show on this because we're way over time. Mike, again, we do the background. The last game, Bulls v Benetton. Now, these are all the games that are going to decide the semi-finals.
Well, I'll tell you what, by the
Bulls v
way,
Benetton.
I think there's flowers and prayers for fucking Benetton here. I think the Bulls
Do you think so?
Oh, absolutely, they'll maul them off the park.
All right,
It's a altitude in fucking Loftus Versfield. They'll fucking eat them alive.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Peter Martin. You don't give a shit because it doesn't. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Great. Okay. Dara Weston.
It's basically Bulls versus most of Italy, most of the Italian squad. So, look, I'd love to say that Benetton would do it. Partly because I'm sick of hearing the South Africans cheering and stuff. But yeah, I'll go for Benetton.
All right, fair enough.
Good man,
and the last voice before we log off, Sabina. Bulls v Benetton. What do you reckon?
Bulls, because I know how hard it is at altitude, and I don't know if they'll be able for that Benetton. So definitely the Bulls, unfortunately.
All right. Okay. Okay, folks, that's it for this week. My thank you to everyone who commented. Now, there was a load of comments and I couldn't get to them, but thank you for everyone who participated. Thank you for watching. My thanks to Mike Reedy, Peter Martin, Dara Weston, and our guest, Sabina Moylan, who no doubt we will have on again. Because you're a great guest and we thoroughly enjoyed having you on. But anyway, for this week, folks, thank you, good night, and I'm going to end it. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care. All the best.
Good night, everybody, and thanks for
Would you ever